everybody, we're here at GRBC again doing another adventure recap for you. This time we're talking with local legend and bearded wonder Matt Acker. Matt, thanks for being here.
Yeah, no problem. Happy to be here, Casey.
So you recently did the Baja Divide with your wife Jenny. For those watching that might not know what that is, you want to give us a quick overview of it?
Yeah, sure. So the Baja Divide was a route created by Nicholas Carmen and Leah Wilcox, a couple of legendary cyclists in the community as far as bike packing and racing goes. You may know Leah from races like the Tour Divide, Transamerica, ones like that. She's just an awesome rider. And basically they went down to Baja, Mexico, spent a couple of years charting out a route. They started in San Diego and went all the way down to La Paz, which is near the southernmost point, and then they designed a loop that goes around the Cape. So the Baja Divide route starts in San Diego, it crosses the border in Tecate, and it goes kind of in a zigzag pattern, primarily off-roads. There's not really much pavement, and it goes through towns for resupply. They've got a guide out there online. You can go to bajadivide.com for more information. And the route's roughly 1,750-ish miles, around 100,000 feet of elevation.
Wow. So what was a daily route like for you guys? I mean, elevation per day, how many miles were you covering? Like I said, you were with your wife Jenny.
Yeah.
So what did a day-to-day look like for you guys?
Well, coming into it, I've ridden in Mexico, we've ridden out in the Southwest, which is desert terrain. We know it's hilly, it's rocky, it can be slow going. And so we wanted to plan conservative, and then if we had extra days, we had extra days. We just didn't want to get pinched on time.
Sure.
So we took that 1,700, divided it, into like 40-mile days. We figured that would be reasonable. And we figured out we needed about 42 days to get it done. And the prime time to do the route is any time after the Baja 1000, which is an auto race.
Sure.
And then during that winter time of year down there, it's a lot cooler. The temperatures are a lot more tolerable. So we picked about 40 miles a day. Some days, we had about 50. But we also had to work with the daylight. The sun rises just after 6 a.m. that time of year, and it sets just before 5 p.m. Okay. So, you want to kind of get into camp wherever you're going to stay a few hours early. Gives you, roughly 6 to 8 hours to work with, depending on when you leave camp. So
sure. Weather was pretty favorable for you guys, or?
Yeah. There were times where it got hot. It definitely got over triple digits, some 100-degree plus days. And the thing about the desert is that time of year, when you're close to the Pacific, you got cool air currents too coming down from the north. So some nights, you get down to 40 degrees, 38 degrees, which I think was our lowest.
Okay.
So. Zero rain, which was nice.
Nice, that's a big plus.
Yeah.
So you got your bike here. I don't know if you want to talk a little bit about your bike setup, but some pretty big tires on it. Looks like it's very capable in the desert terrain.
Yeah, sure thing. So what we got in front of us is a Salsa Fargo. This is their 27.5 plus model. And we took the bike, it's mostly stock. A few things that we did were we changed the wheels out for Velocity USA. These are hand built. The dually rim is a nice wide alloy wheel that can set up tubeless. We chose just standard round spokes for ease of truing or replacement in the field, which we didn't end up needing to do. It was great. We've got Industry 9 hubs on here, made in the USA. They're heavy duty. A lot of engagement in the rear, so with a loaded down bike like this, you want a lot of strength there in that free hub. You don't want things going awry. And the drivetrain on this one, it's got a 32 tooth up front. It's a steel chainring. It's just a standard SRAM model. And in the back, we've got an 1142 cassette, which provides a lot of range for climbing. Down the divide, there's a lot of topography. So you get some climbs that are pretty steep, pretty loose, and it still gives you enough top end. And if you hit some pavement or a rare tailwind, that you can keep trucking.
Sure.
And for tires, we've got these Terravale Coronados, and these are the durable model. You can see they've got quite a bit of wear on them. and they held up great. We had 0 flats on the trip. We had to adjust the air pressure here and there depending on the terrain. Picked up some thorns, but the tubeless setup worked great. We were able just to pull the thorns out in most cases and keep trucking on. So
That's awesome. Now, obviously, when you're out there, you have a lot of bags, a lot of gear attached on it. What were some of the essential pieces that you found, or things that you were really happy that you brought with?
So, you plan these trips and you've got like 40 days to cover, and the Baja Divide is unique because unlike, the Tour Divide where you're in the US, you can access bike shops, you can get packages shipped to you. Down in Baja, it's near impossible to get a package reliably shipped to you at any location. And so we carried a few extra things, just to be self-reliant. So inadvertently we ended up carrying stuff we didn't need, which is okay because we didn't have anything we didn't need.
Yeah, better to have it than wish you did.
Yeah. And we ran, I didn't have the bags on today, but we ran a full seat bag from Salsa, their EXP model. We ran a full-size frame pack. And the great thing about the Fargo is you've got anything cage mounts on the fork. You can mount one down here. You've got a lot of options. So we had 3 anything cages on the bike to carry extra water. That's a critical thing in the Baja. And so that was a great thing to have. We did a front handlebar mount pack right here with a snack pouch on the front. And then we both elected to carry Camelback hydration packs, which was kind of a key move. Because originally we thought, we didn't want to carry the weight on our back, it's one extra thing. By having that expandable capacity, if you pass through towns, you can throw like a loaf of bread in there, you can throw tortillas, whatever you want. And having that water, with the hydration hose right here as opposed to reaching for a bottle was really great because in that desert heat, you could keep a steady flow of fluids.
Find yourself drinking more often.
Yeah. So
I guess that brings us to the next question, which would be food.
Yeah.
I'm sure a few beers, a lot of tacos probably, but what were some of the things that you found yourself eating quite a bit, or?
Yeah. So, whenever we passed through towns, we'd always try to get a good fresh meal, especially like a big breakfast when we were leaving in the morning. And in the evening, lots of tacos, but there's a lot of other different dishes too that are available down there that we don't commonly eat around here. A lot of like machaca burritos, which is kind of a dried beef product. The further south you get or by the coastal areas, there's a lot of seafood, so you can get ceviche, which keeps your diet pretty diverse because in between the towns when we're carrying food and snacks, there's not a lot to choose from in some towns. So like ramen noodles are always a staple in any type of bike packing scenario. I mean, you get a couple 100 calories in a pack, they're cheap, they transport easy, they've got sodium in them, so it kind of keeps those things coming in. And whenever we could find fresh veggies like tomatoes, cucumbers, avocado, we get those, and then we get limes. And one way to kind of clean off the vegetables is we dice them up and then douse them in lime juice because the citric acid, it kills any bacteria that could be living on them. So it's kind of a handy tip.
Yeah, that's a good little hack.
Yeah, a lot of that type of stuff. A lot of tortillas, put Nutella, peanut butter, kind of whatever you can find in them.
Yeah, just calories.
Yep.
I know you're a big promoter of probiotics and stuff like that. Is that something that you use heavily when you're going down?
Yeah, so like my wife Jenny she was born in Mexico. She lived there for the first 14 years of her life, so she's been graced with a hearty digestive system. She didn't really encounter any issues. I mean, here and there you get like an upset stomach from something you eat, but nothing to the point where we were down and out. But for myself, being a gringo, I carried a probiotic and carried like zinc and vitamin C, a couple other things just to help, any extra bit because you're pushing your body hard. Sometimes you're running low on hydration. You're not eating your normal diet. So like at home, we eat a pretty diverse diet being here in the US. But then when you're down in Mexico, a lot of times it's pretty boiled down to, a lot of carbs, a lot of proteins, beans, not as much fresh veggies. So
Sure.
definitely an adaptation.
Yeah. So I know myself included, or a lot of people watching probably have preconceived notions about Mexico, what it's like, culture down there, the people. I'm sure it's a lot different than what most of us think. And what were the people like that you met along the way, or the culture that you experienced?
Yeah, there's definitely that. I mean, that's one of the first questions we always get asked was like, did we feel safe? Do we have any issues?
Yeah.
And honestly speaking, we had zero safety issues. We crossed the border. It was no big deal. When you're in the cities, if it's a bigger one, we get a hotel where we could secure our gear. It's just like any big city. Like in the U.S., you wouldn't go to Chicago and just lean your bike against the corner and go shopping. So you take those common sense precautions. And one of the great things is that my wife, being born in Mexico, was fluent Spanish, and I know like very little. So it was great that we could converse with a lot of local people, ranchers, because you run into a lot of ranching folks and fishermen when you're out in the remote coastlines and out in the desert. And just getting to know people was an amazing experience, like sitting down, a lot of gracious folks along the path, just generally, I think, concerned with your welfare, want to make sure you're doing good, offer you water, food, place to stay if you need it. So it was pretty refreshing to get down there and just have real conversations with people that were complete strangers.
That's awesome. Did you run into people also doing the divide in the same route as you guys?
Yeah, so Baja, like cyclotouring, is nothing new down there. The main highway that runs the length of the peninsula is Mex 1, and so cycle tourists have been riding Mex 1 for decades to get from one end of the peninsula to the other. And there's, believe it or not, there's a common thing where people will ride all the way from Alaska down to Argentina. So basically kind of traverse all of the Americas. So we ran into some folks that were doing that, and a lot of them would stick to the road, but we met an Italian couple that was traveling off-road from Alaska. They rode through the Tour Divide, and then they just, were like, oh, we're going to cut over and jump into the Baja Divide. And so we crossed paths with them, and it's kind of interesting because then, today's social media, you can get to know people by following them on Instagram or Facebook, which was the case. We just kind of followed the hashtag Baja Divide and followed these people because they were in front of us, and ended up meeting up with them, and you kind of feel like you know them already because you've been following their journey, and formed a friendship with these people that was pretty cool.
It is a unique circumstance with social media and things like that today. Now you mentioned Jenny being fluent in Spanish and being from there was a big help. What did it mean to you just being able to spend your almost 40 days with her down there in her element?
Yeah, it was a really cool scenario. That's kind of why we picked Baja Divide for our big trip last year, was that a lot of the pieces lined up. It was a bit of a homecoming of sorts for Jenny, even though she had never been to Baja. She felt that connection with what she considers to be a home country of hers, Mexico, and just seeing her interact with people and being a part of that was awesome. It really helped me learn Spanish a lot better and just get to know a different culture in depth. And we've been married like a year and a half, so it was quite, I wouldn't say it was a test, but at times, you could spend it with your best friend in the world and you would get on each other's nerves. So, during the day we kind of ride a little bit apart, but, you got a tiny 2-person tent, you're sharing a lot of close spaces, not always getting a fresh bath in, so you definitely have to have some misgivings there. But it was, we felt like our marriage progressed like 5 years over that period of time.
That's great. Definitely a newlywed adventure.
Yeah.
So what's next? Is it back to racing and training, or do you have any other trips that you guys are planning right now? Or
yeah, that's been the big question. So right now we're just into the fat bike season. It's the winter time here in Michigan, and we're getting out doing that, traveling around, and we do a lot of gravel racing and gravel events promotion. We're involved in a lot of events here in Michigan. So doing a lot of that stuff, spend a little time doing some actual work and trying to make a few bucks here and there.
Yeah.
But that's, you know, something we've been talking about is we really enjoyed that trip, and I know Jenny's takeaway was that it's something she'd like to do, you know, every year if possible, even if it's not like 40 days, get out for a prolonged trip. And just because you can kind of really commit yourself to it and dig into it. And so we're kind of tossing around options, maybe something like Colorado Trail or something here in the States.
Yeah. You just touched on it, but you guys are putting on the Michigan Gravel Race Series. Do you want to talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, sure. So, yeah, we're involved with the Barry Roubaix race, and there's a coast-to-coast gravel race as well that we played a pretty big part in and had fun doing that. And as far as the gravel series goes, you know, we looked at a lot of these great events here in the state and thought to ourselves it'd be cool if we could bring them all together in a cohesive manner. You know, the great thing about a race series is that it gives people something to shoot for, a reason to go to just more than one event, and you get to know all the different racers that go to them. And it's been pretty cool. 2017 was a good year for it. Opening up more categories, trying to get more people involved this year. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Cool. All right, well, I think that's going to wrap it up for us. Matt, thanks again for being here.
Yeah, no problem.
If you want to keep up with Matt on his next adventure or read more about this one, I think you said you're going to have a blog post on salsa hopefully coming soon.
Yep.
We'll throw in the link for that, but otherwise check into Matt's page or Grand Rapids Bicycle Company. So thanks again, Matt.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks, Casey.